Hello and welcome. You're here with me, Cherry Tumbler. We are in DCS and we've got the lovely F-4 Phantom, which we are going to start up. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to left click on our helmet and turn that on. And then we need to talk to the crew chief. And we do that with the Jester UI action key. So we're going to press that one with one tap. That will bring it up. And then on here, number 7, we've got crew chief hand signals. So you can do this with your head. If I move my head around, it should actually, it's because I've got the mouse in the way, but you can actually use your head to move around. You can use number keys or you can use your mouse. I'm using the mouse at the moment just because it's easier for recording. So left click on the crew chief, and then the proper procedure is you use external power and air and you plug them in and take them off, and it takes quite a long time. We're going to do a method that's getting the aircraft airborne in about 4 minutes. I mean, the video will take longer than 4 minutes, but the actual procedure you can do in probably about 4 minutes. So we're going to go to air source and load start cartridges. Now, if we had connected the power the proper way, we would hear the crew chief saying loading the start cartridges, and then we'd get like a message saying he's loaded it. It takes about 10 seconds, so if you just count slowly to 10, then the cartridges will be loaded. And if we do the next bit of the procedure and the RPM doesn't go up, then the cartridges aren't loaded and you just need to click the start button again in a second. But I am jumping ahead slightly. So here on the left, we've got the throttles. I am noisily moving my throttles in the background here, and they're not moving at all because what we're going to need to do is use the idle detent buttons. So there are actually a few buttons we need to press on this startup, which makes it a little bit fiddly. But we have the right engine idle detent, and I use the toggle option, and the left idle detent option, toggle. And then we're also going to need right engine ignition and left engine ignition. So the procedure is going to be we're going to flick some. Actually, we just turn this light on here. Like so, we're going to turn the master switch on. We're going to right click on here to select the right engine starting. The RPM is going to go up to 10%. Now, if it doesn't, it's because the cartridges aren't loaded, and we just wait 2 or 3 more seconds. Right click again. When it gets to 10%, I'm going to just tap the right detent button, and this will pop out and go forwards a little bit, and then I'm going to let go of that button, and then I'm going to press and hold the right ignition button for about 2 seconds, and then that's it. And it'll make more sense when we do it. So right click, it's going to go up to 10%. I'm going to tap the detent button, it's moving, and then I'm going to press and hold the ignition, and once we see that this is moving, I can let go of the ignition, and that's it. And we're going to do the same for the left hand engine. So left click, that's moving up. Going to push the detent button and show you it moving there, and then I'm going to press and hold the ignition button until this one moves to about 4, and that's the engines kicking in. That's the tricky bit. The rest is a lot easier. It may take a few goes to get this right. It took me ages because I didn't understand about the detent button. Anyway, so the right-hand engine is now at 6,500 RPM. We can now turn on our internal generator, like so. So the engine is now powering some of the electrics. You can see that kicking in. And I would, at this point, start flicking around the cockpit, but what I will do just for ease is I'm just going to let this RPM go up as well, like so. And then we can also turn on the left generator with a right-click. The reason for doing that before I do anything else is now that I've got spare power, Jester in the back can start using some of that power to align the INS, and it can take for ages.
You got the Jenny
so here we
going,
go.
I can start the alignment.
So you can either press the W key or you can left click in the middle. So I'm going to say yes please. You can also use your head as well and wave it around, but I'm just clicking.
Roger that.
So he's going to give me 3 options for the aligning the INS. You may only have 2 in your version. So here we go. So I can choose a full alignment. That takes about 14 minutes. If you're not in a rush, go for that. The next best is the heading memory alignment, which is like the stored heading alignment in other aircraft. It takes about 2 minutes and is pretty accurate. And then the other option, so you may only have full alignment and bath alignment. Bath alignment is best attempt heading alignment. It's kind of like it's accurate enough for most things, but after about an hour, your aircraft might be out by about 5 miles because of the way that the INS degrades. With these two, you're going to be out by about 3 miles after about an hour. So it's not a huge difference, but 14 minutes, 2-ish minutes, and 2-ish minutes. And this is the most accurate version for your 2 minutes. So we're going to go for that one.
You got it. Stored heading it is.
Okay, so he's going to do a thing in the back. Now we're going to start working around on these switches. So first of all, we want the kind of autopilot assist mode, which we'll put those on so the aircraft is nice and steady. If we pop outside, I've got these 2 big fuel tanks on the outside. So I'm going to want the aircraft to know to use that. So if I right click, it's going to put it forward into the external tanks. If I had center tanks and external wing tanks, I would put it down and use the center tank first, and then switch to the outboard later. Coming around, we have this really random button here. We're just going to press and hold it for about 3 seconds, and that does, it resets stuff. I'm not 100% sure what it does, but you need to push it, otherwise your aircraft has some problems. Then we have oxygen, turn that on with a right click. Anti-skid, turn that on with a right click. And then on here we have where our stabilizers are, our trim essentially, and we're going to adjust that with just your normal trim up and down. So it's currently about -0.5. I'm going to trim it down to -3, which makes takeoff nice. Next, we're going to look at our slats and flaps. I use this control. I use flap and slat switch, step down and step up, because that way I can just push one tap of down, it's spinning, and I've now gone to slaps out and flaps down.
Slats out. Flaps down.
Thank you, Jester. If you want to turn your taxi lights on, this is at the point where you do it, and then we carry on moving around the cockpit. Because I like to do as much as I can on the ground before I get in the air, I am going to set up my bombing computer at this point, well, some of the bombing computer. So I'm going to put my fuses to nose and tail, so make sure you click. When it looks like this, it looks like it's in the middle, it's actually on safe. So at least one right click for nose, but nose and tail is not bad. If you want to select your pylons, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my inner and outer, because that's my fuel tanks, because I'm going to be using those first by getting rid of them in a minute. I'm going to set my bombing computer up just because I'm doing a dive toss attack, so that's just for that. If I wanted to set up my how many bombs I was dropping in the interval, I would do that at this point. The next thing I need to do is I have got 4 Sparrow missiles underneath. They need kind of like a warming up, for want of a better word. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this one twice, and in a few seconds this will have RDR in blue on there to tell me that I've got radar missiles. I'm also going to set up my jettison computer. I've got the pylons already selected for later, but if you look underneath, this one says stores. If I right click 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, 4. Fortunately that button doesn't work when you're on the ground. We've now got stores selected, so later when I'm in the air...
done, go primary sync now. We're
awesome.
Ready to taxi.
Cool, now Jester's been quite quick there, so that's great. So what I can do, he said about primary sync, he's also turned on the power system for me as well, so I'll show you that in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this button here where it says standby and primary, left click, and the compass moves. If you haven't heard Jester and you're not sure, if you click to primary and the compass does nothing, then you're probably not ready to sync. And then what I have to do at this point is I'm going to look over my right shoulder, and I'm going to left click on this button, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then that has now synced that compass. So that bit is done. And we can see on here the blue lights have come on, and that's great. I'm going to turn my master arm on, which is a terrible thing to do, but if I don't do it now, I will forget when I'm in the air. Next, I'm going to turn on my what is going to be a radar screen later, and we'll talk about that in a second. Now, if Jester hadn't turned the power on for the RWR, then you use that button. So you just turn it on, and if you turn it on, always make sure that you turn the brightness up as well. Okay. Coming around, we're almost done. If you want to set your pressure, well, I've done for the front panel anyway. If you want to set your pressure, you can do it at this point with this dial here, spinning up and down. And we're going to uncage the artificial horizon with a left click, and then the flag goes, and we're done with the front. Now, before we skip to the right, just going to go to the bottom panel, and what we can do is we're going to turn the radar on, like so, and that will bring up this radar screen. I will turn the light off in a second. And personal preference, I have my gun rate on low, because we only have 639 rounds, and on a high rate of fire you get maybe 3 or 4 taps. It really shreds through it. I prefer a lower rate, but that's purely personal preference. Okay, final panel. We're on the right hand side now. We're going to turn the tackle on to transmit and receive. We've got the radio frequencies, and we can right click here. Now if we're using preset channels, that's all in here. If you wanted to use manual, so say you wanted to 262 or something, then you would just click to manual and you would dial in your frequencies like so. Looking under the canopy, we've got the pitot heat. Let's turn that on, otherwise we get bad air pressure readings or speed readings. IFF, we're going to put to normal, and that is pretty much it. This is your, if you're flying at night time, this is your lighting panel for internal ones, and up here, and then your external lights, you can't really see them, are under here. we do a quick check of the warning panel, and we can see it says canopy unlocked. So what we need to do is, if we look here at one of the most tricky switches to find, because I could not find it for ages, we have this lever sticking out. I'm going to left click on that, or you can just push the canopy button if you have it bound on your keyboard. I think C is the default. So I've closed my canopy. Jess is going to be a few seconds behind. I'm going to turn off my little torch. Okay, Jess is doing his thing. And we have all of the lights are off, and we are good to go.
Canopy down and locked, lights out and stripes aligned.
Fantastic. And the last thing we need to do is, if we look outside, we have some wheel chocks on our rear wheels. They are there by default, so we're going to need to talk to the crew chief, and that was with that just the UI button. And we're going to talk to wheel chocks, remove.
Roger.
And just tap that. If you press and hold that just the UI button, it gets rid of it. If you can't get rid of it on your screen, there is a bug if you're in VR, so just be careful. Sometimes it
Wheel
won't display.
chocks out. Chocks out.
Okay.
And we're good to go, sir.
And we're good to go. So
Have a
that's
safe
great.
flight.
Thank you very much.
Disconnecting.
All right, good grief. So we may as well taxi out and do a takeoff. Let's have a quick look, see where we are. So we just need to go off to the left and then get everyone to the right. There is no parking brake on this. We're just going to power up the engines. I'm going to taxi out to the runway over there.
Let's go kick some ass.
Rude. He does swear actually, so if you're playing this with young kids, Jester does have, he's definitely got some interesting vocabulary. So just watch for that one. So we're just taxiing out. Sorry, I shouldn't really mention what I'm using here for turning. So I've got the nose gear steering button, and it's a press and hold. So because this is designed to be used on carriers, you can turn on a dime. Just power back up again. There we go. Wow, I really did not want to move. Have I got myself stuck? Have I found a glitch? There we go. So we're just going to line up. I'm pressing and holding the nose wheel steering button. Looks okay from over there. Okay, there we go. Right. So takeoff procedure is we are going to press the wheel brakes. We're going to power up to about 85%. We're then going to release the wheel brakes and put the power forwards. And then we're going to watch for this dial. Just as going to start speaking and say 80 and 100 miles an hour anyway. When this needle starts moving, it's pretty much the time to start pulling fully back on the joystick. And then when the aircraft gets airborne, you slowly push the joystick forwards. It kind of feels a bit weird. And if you do it wrong, you end up pointing straight at the sky. But let's give it a go. So wheel brakes on, power up, wheel brakes off, full power. Just saw this heading out on the runway.
Engine's good, airspeed off the peg.
Okay. So it's now saying 80.
80 knots.
Pulling back fully on the joystick.
Airspeed 100 knots.
So fully on, and then when we start lifting up, I'm letting go of the joystick, like so. Wait till we're in a safe rate of climb. Put up the gear.
Gears moving.
Okay, so we are airborne. And because we've got the 3 augmentation switches on, the aircraft is quite nice to fly.
Gear up.
Thanks, Jessa. The last switch we can push is where it says engage AFCS. Just going to left click on that. And at this point, that's like a proper flight assist, so I'm not holding the joystick at this point, and it kind of feels rubbery and then locks into position, so it's an attitude hold essentially. We can put the fuel down and we can fly off into the sunset. And that's us. That is the F4, the abbreviated startup procedure, which does, I promise you, takes 4 minutes or less when you do it properly. And we're in the air safe and well. If you have any questions or comments, write down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Until then, happy hunting and stay safe.